whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. That pattern of whole steps and half steps is the DNA of the major scale. If you memorize that pattern, if you internalize that pattern, you will be able to create a major scale on any one of the 12 chromatic notes. Let's try an example and see how this would work. Suppose I want to create a major scale starting on the note F. Well, let me write an F right here in the first space of the treble clef. This is the F directly above middle C. Let me start there. And I know that I'm going to end on the F one octave above. So I'm going to just go ahead and write that F up on top. I also know that I'm going to fill in every one of the single lines and spaces between F and F, because I'm going to have one of each letter name from F to F. I'm going to have one F, one G, one A, one B, one C, one D, one E, and then I'm going to end up back on F. I don't know if any of those notes will be sharp, flat, or natural, but I know there will be one of each letter name. So if I start on F, I'm going to fill in the G on the next line, and the A on the next space, and the B on the next line, and the C on the next space, and the D on the next line, and the E on the next space. So if I play this through from F to F, let's listen to what we actually have. It turns out we have something that sounds actually pretty close to a major scale, but not quite. So let's investigate the half steps and the whole steps and see how they line up with our C major scale, with the half steps and whole steps of that whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half pattern. Okay. From F to G is a whole step. From G to A is a whole step. From A to B is a whole step. From B to C is a half step. From C to D is a whole step. From D to E is a whole step. From E to F is a half step. So where does this pattern of whole steps and half steps line up, and where is it different? Well, let's see. Between scale degree 1 and scale degree 2, whole step, whole step. Between 2 and 3, whole step, whole step. That lines up. Now between 3 and 4, here's where we don't line up. We have a whole step when we need a half step. And again, between 4 and 5, we have a whole step when we actually need a half step. Then between 5 and 6, we have a whole step. Between 6 and 7, we have a whole step. And between 7 and 8, we have a whole step. So it looks like the only thing that we need to fix is this little passage right here between 3 and 4 and 4 and 5. We have a whole step between 3 and 4, between A and B, but we need a half step. So how are we going to fix this? Well, if we have a whole step, if we have 2 half steps, and we only need 1 half step, what we want to do is we want to bring these 2 notes 1 half step closer in together, which means we can either raise up this A and make it a half step closer to the B, or we can lower this B and make it a half step closer to the A. Now, what happens if we, let's just do this by trial and error. What happens if we make the A a half step higher? Or we'll move that A to an A sharp. And let me just play this and just let your ear tell you, does this sound like we've made this closer or further away from a major scale? So here is the scale with that A sharp added. Okay, that definitely sounds further away. But why? What's happened? Well, we have created a half step between the A sharp and the B. So I'm going to change that to half step right there. But look what we've created as well. We've changed the interval from G to A sharp, not into a whole step, but to a second with, well, let's look at the keyboard, G to A sharp, G0, G sharp 1, A2, A sharp 3. A second with 3 half steps. So we've replaced this whole step with an augmented second, or a second that has 3 half steps. And that is absolutely not what we want. Okay, so that, let's erase that experiment. What's the other thing that we can do? Well, we can bring this B 1 half step closer to the A. So we would make the B, we bring that down a half step to become a B flat. And let's see what that does. Again, let's start by just using our ear to see if we've gotten any closer. So I'm going to play our new scale here, starting from F to F with the B flat added. And that sounds like a major scale. Well, it sounds like we've solved our problem. And in fact, look at this. We had a whole step, we had a half step going from B to C, but look, we just solved 2 problems when we made that B into a B flat. Not only did we make the distance from A to B flat from a half step, from a whole step into a half step, but we've made what was a half step from B flat to C, what was a half step from B to C into a whole step with the B flat to C. So we've actually solved 2 problems with 1 accidental, with 1 flat. And that's something that you're going to see happen a lot if you have the incorrect half step and whole step on either side of a note. Sometimes just adding 1 accidental will adjust everything and bring everything into alignment. All right, in the next video, we'll try another one of these, because this sometimes takes a little bit of practice to get used to.